The views and opinions expressed on Deeply Upsetting are those of the panelists and not those of the Geeks Under the Influence Network, associated brands, properties, or businesses. Listener discretion is advised. Please keep your hands inside the ride at all times.
Welcome to the very first installment of Minor Upsets.
Minor Upsets, woo!
It's a baby show.
It is a baby show.
It's a mini-sode from our regular show, Deeply Upsetting. And in Minor Upsets, one of us each week is going to choose a different news story from a multitude of upsetting news stories. And they're just going to kind of get into it, and we're going to talk about it and see what we think. We're just going to do a deep dive.
And it's so much fun to kind of dig into the internet and find something weird to discuss.
Right?
And we don't want to just rely on often amazing questions that our listeners send us. We also want to kind of explore the stories that are happening on the internet and just kind of discuss it in a more open forum as well.
Exactly.
So that's what we have tonight.
Absolutely. So I am Amy Bogarde, and I'm joined by
Mike the Hobbit,
who brought this first article to us, and I'm very excited to talk about it.
I am as well. This is actually relating to something that we discussed on, I believe it was the Joan Jettitude episode.
It was.
A little bit. Mm-hmm. If you did not listen to that episode, I'm going to have Amy discuss kind of the news story about Armie Hammer and his, as he calls it, he described himself as 100% a cannibal.
Yep. So basically, Armie Hammer, his DMs got leaked. I don't know what caused it, but apparently a bunch of girls that he's been talking to got together and basically were like, time to expose the kind of, off-putting, upsetting behaviors that we're seeing that are a little scary. And so a bunch of girls released the fact that he 100% calls himself a cannibal and sends like very, very violent sexual messages to them. And a lot of them, just based on the context of the message, seemed like it definitely wasn't like a consensual thing that everybody was into.
And I think that's what we want to really hammer in at the beginning of this episode.
Hammer in? Really?
Yeah,
oh
it happened.
Oh my God.
On the beginning of this, because it's not that we're so much making fun of somebody for the fetish that they have.
No.
Even if this is something that is a little bit off-putting, everybody has their own stuff, and we're not kink shamers here at Deeply Upsetting. It's more about the non-consensual aspect of this that is really more of the focus.
Definitely.
On this story.
Definitely.
So this story comes from Slate, and the title of the article that I'm kind of glossing over, if you want to read it more, there will be a link to this in the notes for this episode. Yep. Is the ethical cannibals of the world would like the Armie Hammer news cycle to end too.
How fucking 2020/2021 that the ethical cannibals were like, we've had enough. Let's get into it.
We have some problems with this news story. Thank you. It puts us ethical cannibals in a bad light that we'd like to kind of push.
And you know what's so annoying is that I reached out to the ethical cannibals for their thoughts on like the impeachment trials. I reached out to them about all the different horrible news stories that happened last year, and they refused to comment. And then this Armie Hammer thing is just like too close to home or whatever. So now they have something that they want to say.
You'd think such a small contingency of people would eat up the exposure, but
fuck you.
No? All right. That's fair. So this is Shannon Paulus wrote this story on the 20th of January.
Yeah, let's take a bite out of it.
Oh, there it is. See,
you can't resist.
Yeah, I understand completely. So the Armie Hammer story comes out, and then the ethical cannibal community decides to kind of reach out and say that they're not exactly the same as Armie Hammer as far as like what they are into or not. The ethical human cannibal fetishists don't want the news cycle to be focusing on the cannibal aspect of it and more about the non-consensual nature of the messages.
Sure.
And I'm just going to kind of be poking through this story here. It's so easy to shut down and say, that's not an acceptable fetish, and you need to see a psychiatrist and be behind bars. Mr. Mookie said, or that's his pseudonym. He runs in the 90s, was like realizing that he had kind of these predilections and thought he was all alone. And thus the internet, he realized that he was not the only person that had these kind of like desires or kinks. And there were other cannibal types gathering. This is from the story. There were other cannibal types gathering in forums and photoshopping photos of models into giant pots.
Stop.
Straight out of like Alan Quatermain and the Lost City of Gold, just like the people dangling over a pot, and then probably like
that has like carrots and potatoes.
And then people in like clearly fake tribal garb that's like very not okay in 2020. Just probably dancing around it. I don't know for sure, but that's what I'm seeing in my brain.
Definitely.
He's a photographer himself, and he set up a website called Mookie's Kitchen.
Wait, why haven't we looked at that yet?
We're going to have to after this.
Immediately.
So look up Mookie's Kitchen. There's a link in this article.
Yeah.
He filled with shots of women preparing other women to be eaten. And he always approached the website as a safety valve.
Okay.
He said, a fun way to explore the fetish without offering anything remotely like instructions for, like killing and eating someone.
That's good.
So I am reading this article and I'm starting to get like why they kind of reached out and wanted to make a clear difference between what's happening with Armie Hammer and their fetish, because their fetish is like a lot of other fetishes where it's more like a role play kind of thing.
It's a fantasy thing, yeah.
And it's clearly like a kind of dolled up fantasy. It's not the actuality of like desiring to devour human flesh. It's more like the role play kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like a light version of vor.
Right.
Vor is a little too extreme. Cannibalism is lighter.
Well, I would put this more kind of in a almost like vampirism kind of role play kind of thing, where there's some that do drink each other's blood, and that's a bit much. There's because of like the health end of things, and like that's edge play, quote unquote.
Right.
But there are other people that just like dressing the part and acting out the roles and fake blood and stuff. And that I think is closer to this like cannibal fetish.
Right.
Is the like kind of sexy role play of it.
Yep.
All.
And I think that their issue probably is the fact that in the DMs, because I've read a bunch of them, of course, you definitely don't get the vibe that he is doing like a fantasy kind of role play. It seems very, very real. And he tells one girl that he wants to like drink the blood out of her heart or something, and then basically says that he has done that before to an animal. And so it just doesn't read super fantastical. Like
you're just picturing Armie Hammer like sneaking out to the trash cans at 3 o'clock in the morning to grab a raccoon and like rip out its heart, like while screaming Kali Ma, like he's in Indiana Jones.
Yes.
And then taking a Capri Sun straw and just trying to stab it through the like really heavy muscle of the heart to drain it of its blood.
Not with those straws. Those are useless.
They're the worst straws ever.
They're so teeny.
If they can't poke through the tiniest little thin veneer of foil on those Capri Sun pouches, they're not going to pound through the beefy heart of a raccoon.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
You need a much more heavy duty straw.
You need like a reusable metal straw that you should probably have already.
Absolutely, because that's, responsible.
That is responsible. So, and if there's anything Armie Hammer is, it's responsible about straw use.
He's a big proponent of
Oh God, could you imagine if like you notice that he has one of those keychain straws like after this comes out and you're just like hanging with him?
No, he's drinking blood.
He like takes out his keys and there's just like disposable or like reusable keychain straw.
And it's been sharpened into a point on the one end.
It looks like a piercing needle on one end. He looks at it, he looks at you looking at it, and they just kind of have this weird awkward silence for a minute. He's like, don't worry about it.
And then he lunges at me.
Yeah, right.
Roll credits. That was the end of Amy Bogarde.
I think the person that made the Shia LaBeouf song needs to do a sequel about Armie Hammer. Yeah, actual cannibal.
Man, that song fucks.
Who knew that there was an actual cannibal in Hollywood, but it was Armie Hammer this whole time? Shia LaBeouf is like, whoo! Like
what if Shia LaBeouf is also a cannibal and is like, finally, the spotlight is off of me so I can get back to my cannibalistic ways?
What if Armie Hammer learned how to be a cannibal from Shia LaBeouf?
Shia LaBeouf is doing cannibal classes.
Cannibal classes. It's all the rage in on Madison Avenue in LA.
Yes. Whoever wrote the Shia LaBeouf song just needs to do like a sequel to it now. It's
actual
your time to
cannibal
shine again.
Armie Hammer.
Yeah, it's your time to shine. Sliding in your DMs. Actual cannibal Armie Hammer.
I see it now.
I might have to do it.
I think you need to. I think we'll try to have to whip up something for the show.
I cannot believe now that I'm thinking about it how much I know of the Shia LaBeouf song.
Oh,
I
so
don't
much.
feel like I've listened to it that many times, but I feel like it's tattooed on my heart, and that's where Armie Hammer will puncture me with the straw.
Where it's tattooed.
Where it's tattooed.
For sure. Mm-hmm. Now, the story goes on. There's actually an erotica writer, pen name is Regina Watts, who has written a series of books based on photos from Mookie's Kitchen, a series called Dottie for You.
Oh.
in which,
okay.
and this is kind of brilliant. This is
Okay.
brilliant. The concept here for the stories here, considering the cannibal community. This has got to be like perfect.
Okay.
In which, as billionaire CEO, so one of the CEOs we talked on the last episode,
Yeah.
pick your CEO, with an eating bodies fetish, falls for a secretary who happens to be a demi-immortal woman who returns in a new body whenever she's killed,
Wow.
thus allowing the pair to play out the entire fetish more literally without anyone dying permanently.
Oh, wow.
I love this because it's like allows the writing to become
Yep.
really visceral and
Yep.
dark without any of kind of the responsibility of the action.
Yeah, she said, try and poke holes in this logic, bitch. You can't.
It's like, she comes back, it's fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's totally fine.
Totally fine. Wow, genius.
It is kind of genius.
I'm guessing her name has to be Dottie, the main demon girl or
It's
whatever.
actually Gina, which is weird.
Are you serious?
No, I'm not serious. It's probably
You're
Dottie.
reading this to me? I don't know. And I'm also stupid.
I got you, telling you something about something you didn't know anything about. Ha ha.
Haha. Gina's such a sexy undead name.
Yeah, dead Gina. Yeah. Some of the other names of the books in this series is Dottie Can't Die, Dottie's Bodies, which is solid,
That's genius.
and Dottie is Delicious. Yeah, Dottie's Bodies was real.
She peaked.
Just like Empire
She peaked
Strikes
too
Back,
much.
the middle one is really where all the best choices were made.
She really sharpened her skills and her fangs.
So the cannibal CEO for her for the writer Regina represents anyone who has a sexual shame that they're interested in, but they can't practice because it might hurt someone.
Gotcha.
So I figure that kind of goes back to the like release valve that
Yeah.
Mookie was talking about, is that there are fetishes that are, nobody's really getting hurt if it's
Yeah.
like consensual and fine and it's just like a fun, kinky kind of thing.
Yeah.
There are some that are kind of on that edge
Yep.
where dealing with the kink in the first place is in a place of edge play to start.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, I can understand where this, erotic fiction or the pictures, the photoshopping, all that is kind of a way to exist in that world.
Yep.
But not good enough for Armie Hammer, apparently.
Nope.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Oh God, I just want to think about like Mookie. Sweet Mookie.
Sweet Mookie.
Sweet Mookie. Living his happy cannibal life and doing his thing. No one's getting hurt.
Yeah,
he's got a
just
nice
making
little
his
following.
drawings.
Making his little photoshops and having a great time. The models, like, everybody's treated with a lot of respect. There's no like funny business, great like craft services during photo shoots, like runs his business right.
Yeah.
Does it the right way. Because he is a ethical cannibal.
Right.
And that crosses all things, even like where he sources his coffee. Everything is primary focus is ethical.
Ethical cannibal Mookie's world.
Right. And here he is just like living his best life as a ethical cannibal. And then this Armie Hammer story comes through.
Oh.
And it's like, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Because he knows the community, though grown since his time in the 90s,
Yep.
doesn't really have a figurehead.
Right.
There's figureheads in the BDSM community and other kink communities that are a little bit better known. But I'm assuming, along with probably any number of other kinks that we don't know exist in the world.
Man, yeah.
Like the adult baby community. I don't think there's really a figurehead
No
there.
spokesperson for the adult babies.
Unfortunately.
No.
And all they say is goo goo and gaga. So
Right? They're not getting the point across.
they're
well
really
at all.
not. So
We need an adult baby prodigy to explain to us.
really, it's like me like baby sex. And they're like, okay, no,
Never
okay,
mind.
don't even want to
Never
publish this at all. So Mookie is like getting asked questions by his friends in the community. And he's like, fuck, I don't, like, guys, come on. Like, I really don't want to be the person to have this conversation. And then he gets an email from Slate being like, so we just found out you guys exist.
And we found your website,
And we
bro.
found your
have some
website.
questions.
We have some serious questions. So yeah, so he ends up being the spokesperson, having to explain that it's like, okay, yeah, cannibals, but good though. Like not,
We're good ones.
we're not into like non-consensual cannibalism.
Right.
And trying to like explain.
Yeah.
That's like the furry community, and I've seen the furries documentary as
Yes.
well, and I feel like there's probably that with the ethical cannibal community as well. Like the furries outwardly are like, this isn't a sex thing. This is like a
And they're all like really earnest.
earnest, and then you see like footage of them when the cameras aren't supposed to be on.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, we all fuck in our suits.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we all know that, but we just don't want other people to know that. That's the cannibals too. It's like, I mean, I've eaten a toe. Like, so...
I can't let that get out. I still have a day job as an accountant. Nobody needs to know about me.
My boss will fire me if they find out I ate a human toe. Speaking of that, that's later in this is that a lot of these ethical cannibals, they say that this is like a sensual thing of like wanting somebody inside you forever by consuming their flesh.
Digestion, though.
Yeah, right.
They don't talk about that, huh?
But, you know, when you consume flesh, there's a lot of like you get in trouble and stuff. But but the cannibal fetishists say that, you know, they draw a line between their activities and Armie Hammer, but they are a little protective of him, as in that they say he should be able to have the right to desire human flesh in peace. So they're like, he's allowed, as long as they don't act on it. Yeah, they're trying. But with the human toe thing, there's Watts recalls a Reddit thread where a man described making a meal out of his own amputated foot.
Oh wow!
And they don't think a lot of people who are into consensual cannibalism would have a foot taco. She said,
no. That
it's not so much about actually the consuming of it. It's more like the sexy fetish side of it, I guess.
Yeah.
So maybe a butt or a boob.
Yeah,
maybe.
That seems right. We've talked about what parts of our body we would want to
unless
eat.
Quentin Tarantino was a cannibal.
Definitely
and
foot
then
taco
he would
all
eat,
day.
Oh, so many foot tacos.
Yeah.
But I love this because this is so like prejudging cannibals, this writer. Cannibals who are nice from what I've gathered speaking to Watts and Mookie. Oh. So out of the two cannibals that they've talked to, they're just like, cannibals seem really nice. Oh. And they're like, welcome to my parlor.
Why is this article so wholesome?
It's so wholesome. This writer is like really trying so hard not to like shit on cannibals.
He's like made a million people read this article and be like, be honest. Does it seem like I'm judging the cannibals?
This is, oh God. And then there's some conversation about like, if you get into cannibalism, then like, what is it? Mood advice, especially if you're going out and giving them power over you. That is, if you want to be eaten, find a cannibal you can trust. Which is important with any sexual fetish, is that you have safe words. You make sure you're in a position, if you're giving power over, that you trust the person that you're giving the power to.
Oh my God, absolutely.
That's incredibly important.
Yes.
And
you can't tread lightly into the cannibalist community.
No, and really any kink, you want to make sure that you are in a safe space. Like, that's something that's really been bothering me with all the Marilyn Manson talk, is that the people that are having this conversation of, you know, she knew what she was getting into, kind of bullshit.
Absolute
garbage. Fucking horse shit.
Yeah.
That's the same attitude of like, well, if she went out looking like that, or if she was walking alone in that neighborhood, or if she drank that much, is all this justification that it's their fault is fucking horseshit.
It's so unfair in the kink community because that will always be part of the conversation.
Sure, if you're into BDSM, then you apparently are just all your rights are taken away. That you're allowed to be beaten, and you asked for it, so it's fine. No, that is not how it fucking works.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. So I like that the ethical cannibals are really standing by that line, is that, you know, we're ethical, we're consensual. That's kind of part of the deal. And so actually eating a person is just
not cool, bro.
Not cool. Acting it out, like, you know, role playing it, totally fine. But
how do we get Mookie on the show?
I'll just see if I can reach out and get Mookie on Deeply Upsetting. I'm sure that as far as like the optics that they're looking for, being on a show called Deeply Upsetting is totally their bag.
That's fair, I guess.
But Mookie added later that the cannibal fetish was really just a side story, and that is true. That really the Armie Hammer story is more about his non-consensual attitudes towards these DMs, and apparently maybe what he's done before.
Well, yeah, just because he's pretty recently divorced, and his ex-wife, all she really said that I know of is that she's not surprised by any of this, and that she called him a monster.
Yeah. And
so that's rough.
That kind of speaks to,
That's pretty rough.
It's looking like, there's a bigger community than we ever knew. It's a niche fetish, but Mookie has explained he's made a modest living solely from selling portfolios on his website.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
No, I mean, everybody's got a thing, and even if it's not necessarily your thing, there are enough people curious about the thing that may drive some of your stuff.
I wonder if anyone will listen to this show, go look at his website, and realize that it is actually their thing.
And you know what? We want to celebrate that. If this episode has awakened something in you, ever, we want to hear about it for sure.
Oh, we really, really do.
We really want to know.
We'll give you an alias.
Totally. Yeah, the alias is fine. We don't need to actually be able to track you down. We're celebrating that, like, this has opened you up to some new thing that you find joy in. That's, again, consensual and
definitely
not hurting anybody.
Yes.
But apparently Mookie has famous clients, and he won't tell them, who they are and all that, of course. But
he's extremely ethical.
But he does hope that they'll speak up voluntarily to put a kinder face on the cannibals.
Mookie, you're not even using your real name, and you think the celebrities are going to use their real name?
Mookie didn't want this role in the first place. That's why it's just like, I really hope that Joan Cusack stands up and says, you know what? It's okay to be a cannibal.
That would be spicy.
That would be so spicy. And John's just like, I'm not, but I respect my sister's choices. She doesn't hurt anybody, actually. You find these super steamy cannibal photos with Joan Cusack.
Isn't she married to Peter Sarsgaard?
That sounds right.
Into that, first of all, hot couple, definitely. I would love to see some weird, horny pictures that the two of them have taken where he's, pretending to put her into a soup.
Oh, man. Totally into it.
If that existed and they were, real photos of, Joan Cusack and Peter Sarsgaard, I would want one for our home.
More like Joan Stusack.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
And Peter Sar's garden salad.
There we go. That's
it's not
better than I had.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, much like the stew that Joan's being cooked into.
Slow and low, baby.
It's like that old story of the Rock stew. It's just the Rock and all this stuff, but it's Joan Cusack is the Rock. People were like, I got potatoes. And Peter's like, cool.
Cool.
Throw them on in.
Put them in with the secret ingredient.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like this wraps up our very first minor upset.
Yeah, about ethical cannibalism. So
I know. How do we even go from here? I have to choose the next one.
I don't know.
But really hard to top that.
I like this story so much because it is minorly upsetting, the idea of especially the Armie Hammer stuff. But it is kind of charming that there are these people that if taken at their word.
Yep.
Are genuinely just into kind of the weird taboo nature of cannibalism and not actually looking to eat people.
Right.
And it's kind of charming. I want to do a Christopher Guest movie about ethical cannibals.
Wait, can you please though? Or a What We Do in the Shadows type thing?
Yes, definitely.
That would be amazing.
Absolutely.
Well, please give us your feedback on our new segment for our little mini-sodes, because we would love to hear it. If you have any articles or anything crazy that you've heard about and you would like for us to cover it, please let us know.
Oh, we want to see those upsets.
We would love it because, we already asked for listener questions. So if you'd like to, send a little article our way, we would absolutely appreciate it. But yeah, let us know, rate, comment, subscribe to our show. Subscribe to all the shows on the Geeks Under the Influence network. And thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. I am Amy Bogarde.
I'm Mike the Hobbit.
And we will see you next time.
GUIPodcast.com.
In a world ravaged by movie studios that keep rehashing the same things, only one podcaster has the guts to make it even worse. Join Mike the Hobbit as he traverses the internet to bring you some of the best and worst ideas for reboots, remakes, and reimaginings of some of your favorite and least favorite TV and film properties. Ideas like a John Waters He-Man movie, Fantastic Four the musical, and Aliens, done entirely with marionettes. What podcast would bring this evil upon the world? This is Smack My Pitch Up. Available anywhere you get your podcasts.
Hey guys, Scotty Big Daddy Preston here. That's right, the Geek Father, asking you to join me here every other week with friends and family of the GUI Network as we go through all the trials and tribulations of being a geeky parent. So remember, join us or cry.
Coming straight from the mouths of madness, I'm Lowdown.
I'm F.U. Hunter.
Do you love horror?
We fucking do.
So this is a podcast dedicated to all things in cinematic horror. We're talking movies, television, composers, special effects artists. We're gonna fucking cover it.
So if you love horror,
Embrace the madness.